Chapter 30, Breaking My Silence. It is now or never. Finally, the day I've been dreading is here, and I can't halt the dawn ebbing its gradual way into daylight. Everything hinges on what I do now, and once done it can never be undone. I knew that my life will never be the same once I publicly share my story, and I'm still unsure if I'm fine with that. All of the reasons not to do this suddenly came flooding in, as if my body chemistry has just sent them a blanket invitation. I felt the soft panic grow within me as I watched Ellie busily set up the room. She organized and decorated my background for the video, laid out the clothes that I will wear, and she also set up her camera for filming. I wanted to help her, but I was so nervous that I felt like my legs would give in. I took a deep breath as I started to have second thoughts about this. I knew that the anxiety that I am feeling will fade if I back away, but then I have to do all of this again another time. Kevin is not going to stop harassing me until I completely leave the entertainment industry. I did not want to let myself be succumbed to this abuse anymore. I want to finally live freely and happily again. Even if I won't be able to pursue my dreams as a celebrity makeup and hair stylist anymore, I knew that it is better to work a minimum wage job, knowing that I have made a difference, than to continue wiping tables and serving snobby customers, knowing that I could have done better. I think I'm almost done, Ellie announced as her eyes were locked on the screen. She was typing something as she tapped her foot against the floor impatiently. I nodded in response as I placed a hand on my chest, feeling my relentless and fast-paced heartbeat pulsating under my fingertips. I knew that this anxiety within me will grow if I let these thoughts swirl into a vortex of stupidity, eating their own tail. Or I can breathe real slow, let the thoughts leak into the ether and be the real boss of me. I am a survivor. Even when I've been nothing but a coward before, I am a survivor. Even when I felt lost and defeated, I am still a survivor. I kept my head down and tried to move on from everything that happened before, and yet he still continued to harass me and ruin the life that I deserved. I inhaled sharply as I clenched my hands into tight fists. I can do this, I muttered to myself as my eyes fell to my hands on my lap. Yes, you can, Ellie exclaimed, making me jump from my seat. My eyes widened in shock when she was standing there in front of me with the clothes that she wanted me to wear for the shoot. It's ready. The next thing I knew, I was already sitting in front of the camera, dressed in the outfit that Ellie has chosen for me. I've been so lost in my thoughts for the evening ahead that I'm surprised to see how far I've come. You can do it, she voiced out as she stood behind the camera. I forced a small smile as she began her countdown. In 3, 2, 1. She mouthed as she did the sign of the numbers with her hands. Action. She gestured to me to start speaking as she started to roll the camera. I'm Sandra Bailey. I'm here to share my story about Kevin Butler. All of you might know him since he is a famous producer. I began nervously, my lips quivering as I spoke. It's too late to back out now. First of all, let me tell you the reason why I shot this video. I dug my nails into my moist hands, trying to keep myself focused and coherent. The slight pain that I felt from this kept me awake and attentive. It's because I couldn't handle anymore all the emotional abuse and stress brought by Mr. Butler. I continued reluctantly as I looked at Ellie, and she flashed me a thumbs up. Her smile suddenly reassured me to keep going as it gave me a boost of confidence. Yes, I can definitely do this. I reached this point because he has continued to harass girls like me, and I could no longer tolerate it anymore. I know that breaking my silence would entail repercussions that would directly affect me, but it's time that I finally spoke up. I can't let a man like him get away unscathed and untainted. I confidently stared at the camera as these words left my lips. I felt like a woman possessed as the aura around me changed. At that moment I felt like I exuded confidence, power and strength. No more hiding. Let me start at the beginning. The memories flooded inside my mind like a tsunami, making me flinch at the sudden rush of it all. I exhaled deeply. I met Mr. Butler when I became a hair and makeup stylist in KB Studios. My grin widened as I recalled all the makeup looks I've created, the photo shoots I've participated in, and the people I've met during my time there. My face fell immediately when I suddenly remembered Diane's Twitter post. I guess I was the only one who enjoyed my presence there. Back then he treated me very kindly. He would compliment me from time to time, and he eventually sent flowers to show his interest towards me. I paused and the expression on my face darkened a little. I remember everything like it was just yesterday. It made me believe that his intentions to me were pure. I furrowed my eyebrows in disappointment, shaking my head wistfully at my stupid actions. I couldn't believe that I was so gullible and naive back then that I even ignored all the red flags that he showed me. I really am an idiot. Then one time he went to my apartment drunk. He said that he wanted to be sexually intimate with me. I felt my heart drop to the pit of my stomach as these words left my lips. I pursed my lips into a thin, "I'm already at this point. All right, Sandra, you can do this." I kept chanting these thoughts in my head to convince myself that I'll be able to go through this. I breathed in heavily as I plucked up enough courage to continue my story. Seeing him like this was new to me since he only showed me his good side, and so I quickly declined him and tried to send him home. By now, I can feel my throat drying up as tears started to form in my eyes. I bit my lower lip, struggling to keep everything together. It was during this that he sexually took advantage of me in my very own apartment. As the memories of that day came flooding back in like a dam, I also felt the hot tears drop one by one. I still couldn't get myself to tell this part without crying. As I cried, my bottom lip quivered, the same as a baby that pushed past endurance. My eyes became glacier under the sheen of water, constant, yet allowing the tears to flow without pause. In that moment, in seeing my own reflection through the small lens of the camera, I understood the depth of pain that had been sitting below my skin. It was then I saw through my tears Ellie disappearing to go get something. I took a deep, shaky breath. I have to continue. I tried my best to escape from him. I was able to push him and I ran towards the kitchen to get something to protect myself. I tried to stifle my sobs at first as I desperately attempted to hide my grief, but I was immediately overcome by the wave of emotions that broke me down entirely. All my defenses washed away in those salty tears. When Ellie came back, she handed me a box of tissues. When I turned my face to look at her, her eyes widened at the expression I had on my face. I was a picture of grief, shame, and devastation. It was the face of someone who desperately wanted to save other people from experiencing the same traumatizing thing. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding as I gently dabbed the tissue on my face to wipe my tears. I was worried about the eyeliner and mascara that I had on. I probably look like a raccoon right now. "I'm sorry, I got carried away," I muttered apologetically, but Ellie just waved her hand at me, urging to continue. I pressed my lips together as I cleared my throat to continue. "The story is almost over, Sandra. He destroyed some of my stuff because he felt frustrated that he wasn't able to have his way with me." I tried to sound nonchalant as if I didn't shed tears earlier. I didn't want people to think that I was being manipulative and weak. He told me that he only wanted to get close to me because I was too easy and naive. He only wanted someone he can easily manipulate and dispose of after. My eyes fell to the ground as I was immediately dominated by profound sadness, fatigue engraved on my worn face. It was always hard for me to tell this story. I just wanted it to be over. Eventually I kicked him out of my house, but the following day, he started to spread some nasty rumors about me, saying that I was just some easy girl who slept with him just to be where I was. I scowled in disgust upon recalling the look that he had on his face that day. As he watched people spread rumors about me and look at me as if I'm some kind of monster, he was observing from the side with a malicious grin on his face. I remembered the look on mine when I realized that he was responsible for all of this, an expression of shock, betrayal, and defeat. The rumors spread like wildfire and I was forced to quit my job. I let out a long and tired sigh as I finished the backstory at last. I looked into the camera lens again and I frowned as I noticed that my makeup was already smudged. I glanced at Ellie and she gave me a nod, assuring me that I should do it. I gazed into the camera lens again. My face was now serious as I was very determined to expose Kevin and show the world his true colors. So that's what happened before, but recently Mr. Butler still decided to harass me because of a misunderstanding. He sent me these threatening messages to discourage me from working in the entertainment industry again. I pulled out my phone to show it. I slowly moved my finger and scrolled down to show everyone each message he sent me. I then read a couple of them out loud just in case they weren't able to read it. After finishing reading some of the messages, I closed my phone and stared deeply into the camera. I will not be bullied anymore by Mr. Butler. Enough is enough. I'll live by with these words from now on. I won't let anyone trample on me anymore. Alright, that's a wrap, Ellie said happily as we both finished shooting. I let out a sigh of relief as I slumped in my chair. I can't believe I actually did that. How was it? I asked her curiously as I mustered up the energy to stand up. My eyes widened in shock as I stumbled a bit backwards. My legs felt weak, almost like jelly. I felt like I was going to drop to the floor. I held on to the closest thing next to me, trying to steady my balance. The nervousness that I felt really took over my body completely. Are you okay, Sandra? Ellie asked worriedly as she made the initiative to approach me. I raised my hand to stop her, making her pause mid-step. I forced myself to move near her to see the whole film. She placed a hand on my shoulder for support, worried that I might suddenly collapse. I'm fine, Ellie. It's okay. I gave her a small smile as I gently touched her hand and moved it away from my shoulder. Let me see it. It's great. She stepped aside to show me the entire clip. I watched intently, noticing every little movement I made. As soon as we reached the part where I started sobbing, I internally cringed at my ugly crying face. Good thing I only cried once, I couldn't bear to see myself crying again. As soon as we finished everything, I turned to her. Thank God we're done. The only thing left is to upload these to the world. I immediately felt anxious as these words left my lips. My heartbeat started picking up its pace at the thought of everyone listening to my story. I couldn't help but think about what other people might think or say about the video. I pressed my lips together. I know that I have to stay strong no matter what they say. Yes, I'll just edit some final touches, then your story will be introduced to the public. Ellie muttered seriously as she inserted the memory card into her laptop. She then carried the laptop and her camera as she went to the couch. I followed closely behind her as she sat down to start working. Wish me luck, I murmured as I crossed my fingers jokingly. Ellie let out a small chuckle in response before she started working on the video. As soon as she was done, she looked at me to show me the entire video. A smile of satisfaction crept to my lips as I nodded my head in approval. We then both looked at each other, knowing that it's finally time. Are you ready? She asked as her mouse hovered over the publish button. I cut myself short as self-doubt started to sink in. Am I really ready to change my life forever? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath as I recalled everything that I've gone through so far, reigniting the determination that I had a while ago. Yes, Chapter 31, New Beginning. Upon waking, I burrowed myself into the warm and soft sheets. I groaned in exasperation as I refused to open my eyes. Everything that happened lately felt like a dream. I thought that I would just wake up and everything would be back to normal. I would still be working at the diner, making minimum wage and dealing with snobby and impatient customers. As I served their meals, I would be dreaming of working as a celebrity and hairstylist, and during my breaks, I would look at different makeup looks and hairstyles that I can recreate during my free time. The old me would have never believed that I worked at Williams Incorporated. And at this point, the real dream here is me being able to work in the entertainment industry ever again. My experience working as a celebrity makeup and hairstylist has become nothing but a distant memory that I wish I could burn into my mind forever. I felt ridiculous for ever feeling like Cinderella before. She got her happy ending while I didn't. I let out a long sigh as I rubbed the remainders of sleep from my eyes and gazed out at the horizon. Its vivid light extended across a rosy sky. This was something that the majority of people would consider beautiful, however. At that moment I found it strange, hard even, to find something so meaningful in something so mundane. It's not like the sun wouldn't rise, it had, after all, been reliably happening since the beginning of time. So what was so special about it? I could no longer bring myself to feel the joy from it like others did. The magic that drew so many artists and photographers in, as if they had some lens or filter I'd missed out on. Or maybe I'm just being too negative. That's probably it. I sighed drearily as I sat up from my bed. I let out a yawn as I stretched, deciding that it is time for me to stop sulking. In fact, I should be proud of myself. I did something I never thought I would ever do in my whole life. I am a survivor. I covered my face with both of my hands as a wave of mixed feelings washed over me. I feel lost, confused, and relieved at the same time. I am relieved because I was finally able to let out this weight in my chest. The truth really does set you free, and for once I was able to have a taste of freedom. I am lost and confused because I honestly don't know what to do now. I didn't know where I should begin. I am alone at home and jobless. I wanted to message Ellie, but I did not want to bother her anymore after everything she has done for me. I desperately want to call Arthur as well, but we definitely did not end on a good note. From the corner of my eye, I spotted my laptop on my bedside table. I pressed my lips into a thin line. I still have bills to pay, so I can't afford to stay in bed all day. Even when I don't have the energy to do anything, I have to keep going. I need to get myself together. I decided to open my laptop to browse different job listings. I searched for minimum wage jobs and job openings in the entertainment industry. I saw a lot of job opportunities in the minimum wage section. I scanned through the list of companies looking for waitresses and janitresses. I saw familiar fast food chains like In-N-Out Burger, McDonald's, and Subway. Upon checking the entertainment industry section, there were only a few companies who posted job openings like Wolf Corporation, BLT Incorporated, and Dream Limited. I decided to send my resume to some of these companies, trying out my luck with all of them. I closed my laptop after sending out my curriculum vitae to my prospect companies, and returned it back to the bedside table. I walked out of my bedroom to go to the living room. I plopped down on my sofa and pulled out my phone from my pocket. I browsed through my social media account to pass the time. After scrolling for a while, I saw Ralph's photo. His grin was wide as he did a peace sign next to one of our coworkers at the diner. I'm glad to see that he's doing fine. It was then I suddenly had an idea. It was like a light bulb lit inside my head. Maybe I could call him to check up on him and ask if there's still an opening at the diner. I closed my social media application and dialed his number on my phone. I anxiously waited for him to respond as I tapped my foot on the ground impatiently. "Hello," Ralph said as soon as the call connected. I smiled as I heard his familiar voice. It felt like ages since we last talked. "Hey Ralph. It's Sandra," I replied excitedly. "Hey Sandra. It's been ages since you called me. I miss you so much," he said excitedly, which made me laugh. God, I missed him. I miss having a close coworker. "I'm sorry I only called today. Work had been hectic," I muttered as I felt a pang of guilt for not reaching out earlier. I got too caught up with my work, Arthur, and Kevin that I forgot to contact my other friends. The only friend I actually called frequently is Ellie.
Hey, no worries.
I understand working in a huge company would really make someone very busy. I sighed apologetically. I took a mental note to make it up to him sometime. "Yeah. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that," I croaked awkwardly, not knowing how I can tell him about my dilemma. "About work?" he asked curiously. "Yeah, well," I trailed off as I took a deep breath. "I actually resigned from Williams Incorporated," I murmured shyly. I feel ashamed to tell him about this. He might have thought I was an idiot for resigning from one of the biggest companies in town. He gasped in surprise. "What? Why?" His voice was laced with disbelief and shock. "It's a long story. I'll tell you all about it in person," I told him dismissively, desperately trying to change the subject. "All right, so what do you want to talk about?" I let out a sigh of relief as he didn't attempt to pry anymore. It was only then that it dawned on me that I might have interrupted his working hours. "Are you working right now?" I asked cautiously, berating myself for not having thought about this in the first place. "Actually, I'm on my break, that's why we can talk," he answered casually. "Oh, okay, that's good to hear. Can you do me a favor?" I crossed my fingers, hoping that he could help me. "Sure, what is it?" he asked nonchalantly. "All right, here goes nothing. Can you talk to Kyle and tell him to take me back? I'm looking for jobs right now and I thought about coming back," I requested pleadingly. "Kyle is the owner of the diner. He's nice and all, but he's strict most of the time. He has a soft spot for Ralph though because he reminds him of his brother. Back when I worked at the diner, all of us would use that to our advantage. If that's okay with you," I added immediately. "Sure, no problem. I'll talk to him after my shift ends." My heart leaped with joy as I smiled triumphantly. Thank God for Ralph. I couldn't hide the happiness from my voice. "Thank you so much, Ralph. I owe you one."
No worries.
"By the way, I need to go now. I gotta get back to work. Bye," he said hurriedly as I heard someone call for him in the background. "All right, bye. Let's hang out soon, okay?" he added before abruptly ending the call. Relief consumed me as I let my back fall onto the couch with a thud and stretched my legs. At least that problem is solved. I stared at the ceiling blankly as I started to think about Arthur. I wonder how he is doing now. I miss him badly. Did he already forget about me? Or is he also missing me? My heart dropped to the pit of my stomach as I recalled our last conversation with each other. Things would be better if it stayed this way anyway. My thoughts were cut short when I heard my phone ping to signify a new message. I lazily reached out to grab my phone. I narrowed my eyes, adjusting to the brightness of my phone to see that it's a text from Ellie. I sat up to read her message well. From Ellie. "Hey Sandra, check this out now." She texted me again soon after, this time with a link. I click on it immediately, thinking that this is what she wanted me to check out as soon as possible, and it redirected me to a news article. I gasped as I read the title. I placed a hand over my mouth in disbelief as I scrolled through it. My breathing became rapid and shallow as my eyes widened when I saw the images that were attached to the article. It was as if each word impacted me and had knocked every wisp of air from my lungs. I sat there struggling to inhale, to exhale, or to do anything for that matter. My hands started sweating and my heartbeat spiked up as I read each word. I was paralyzed in shock. For a moment I couldn't remember how to speak or even breathe properly. I was totally stunned as the words on the article bounced around inside my skull. My eyes and mouth were frozen wide open in an expression of stunned surprise as I finished reading it. As I slowly closed my phone, I just sat there in shock. Maybe shock is an understatement to describe what I'm feeling right now. The news has totally left me flabbergasted. I just couldn't believe what I saw. Chapter 32, In the Public Eye. This can't be real. My brain stutters for a moment as my eyes take in more light than I expected. Every part of me goes on pause while my thoughts catch up. My body was frozen from shock as if my legs were tied to the chair. My body was so rigid and tense that I didn't even realize that I was already holding my breath. I squeezed my sweaty palms tightly as I stared at the news article before me. I shook my head, refusing to believe what I'm seeing. I didn't expect it to reach this point. Kevin Butler under fire for an alleged sexual harassment case. According to a video circulating online, it was revealed that Kevin Butler, famous celebrity, harassed a previous employee at KB Studios. The woman claimed that Mr. Butler sexually assaulted her and damaged her property. A lot of netizens expressed their disappointment in Mr. Butler. However, there are also people who question the intention of the woman in the video. We have yet to hear news from Mr. Butler's agency. What do you think about this video? Tell us in the comments section below. My heartbeat was pounding relentlessly against my ribcage, threatening to burst out of my chest as my mind replayed the traumatic experiences I've had while working at KB Studios on a short loop. With my conscious mind, I reiterated what Ellie told me the other day after the video was posted. There will be supporters and there will be haters. I have to stand my ground and remain firm no matter what they say. I clearly didn't listen to Ellie well enough and took her words to heart, because when I saw the news article that came out about my post, I immediately started to feel sick. My eyes scanned the article multiple times, almost memorizing every word. My stomach heaved unhelpfully, but then I tried to keep a lid on it. My knuckles have become white from clenching my fists too hard and my face was pale from shock. Soon enough, my thoughts have tumbled just as fast as before as I felt tears form in my eyes. I placed my hand on my chest, counseling myself between each new horrific recollection. Kevin's inappropriate advances, the rumors that he has spread about me, the threatening text messages he sent me. All of these memories swirled around my head until it became too overwhelming for me. Tears began rolling down my cheeks as I held my head in defeat. Even though the news article didn't have any bias claims and I kind of expected this to happen, just the thought of this becoming a big thing suddenly frightened me, knowing that there will be people who will not believe me and will continue to ridicule me just like my colleagues in KB Studios. It was his word against mine. And as a woman who had no power whatsoever, his word would obviously be believed and mine would be disregarded and criticized. The ringing sound of my phone interrupted my thoughts. I blinked several times as I quickly wiped my tears with the back of my hand. I rigidly turned to look at the source of the sound and saw that it was Ellie who was calling me. Relief consumed me as I quickly picked it up and answered it. I opened my mouth to speak, but Ellie immediately beat me to it. Did you see my text? Ellie's voice sounded happy and satisfied. I grimaced at the volume of her voice as I distanced it a little from my ear. Yes, I did. I trailed off, still in shock. Ellie, I didn't expect it to get this big. I admitted foolishly as I slumped back against my chair. I warned you that it would yesterday. She replied with a sigh. And what did you expect? We're talking about Kevin freaking Butler. Of course this will be big. She stated matter-of-factly. I could already imagine Ellie rolling her eyes at me. This is bad, Ellie, I said in disbelief as I looked away from the news article. I've had enough of it. It's not. It's good, Sandra. This is what we wanted to make Kevin pay for the bad things he has done to you. She said this with so much passion and anger that it somewhat motivated me too. Her energy was contagious and she was slowly passing some of it to me. And I even researched and checked online the overall opinion of everyone who has heard about the news so far, and 70% of the public are showing their support to you. I felt my heart sink to the pit of my stomach. Only 70%? I frowned, knowing how vicious the 30% would be. This is a good number. Especially since he's very well known in the entertainment industry, she assured, making me feel a little bit better. Not only that, you have started a movement on Twitter. People are sharing their own personal experiences being sexually abused and taken advantage of by other people, especially other people in the industry, in order to show support to you. She added happily as my eyes widened in disbelief. What? They are? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. People actually believe me and want to support me? Seemed like a dream. Yes, go check it out for yourself. I'll send you a link of the old and incoming tweets about the entire situation. Ellie said as I immediately heard a ping coming from my laptop soon after. Wow, she was fast. I opened her message and clicked the link. I scrolled down through Twitter to see the endless support people showered me. I read every single one of them as a small smile crept to my lips. They do believe me. I'm proud of you, Sandra. Her words made me tear up. Not because of sadness, but because of the overwhelming emotion I was feeling from the support of many people. I'm so glad all of these people liked the video I posted. It looks like everything is getting much better. Thank you for helping me out. I told her as I bit my lower lip, trying to hold back the tears that were threatening to spill. Oh, what would you do without me? She sounded dramatic and we both chuckled. Oh, by the way, I need to go now. I forgot I still have to do something. Bye. She babbled hurriedly as she tried to end the call. I didn't get the chance to respond as she hung up. I brought my attention back to my laptop and refreshed the page to see if there were still more tweets in support of what I did. I skimmed through everything. I saw some that were really heartwarming, so I liked those tweets. At LuxyFafer 9201. Her experience was also similar to mine. I hope I can also gain the courage to make my abuser liable for his wrongdoings. At babygirl_23. As someone who also went through the same harassment, I can say that this is hard. I admire her for being this brave woman. I wept sadly as she finished her story. I really hope no one can experience something as horrible as this ever again. Kevin Butler, shame on you. By the end of everything, I felt my heart grow warm with the overflowing encouragement of all these people. Words cannot describe how grateful I am to everyone who has supported me. I heard the ping of my cell phone that disrupted my thoughts. I checked to see who it was. It was Andy, a fellow colleague from KB Studios. He messaged me regarding the video I uploaded. From Andy. Hey Sandra. I know it's been a while, but I saw the video you uploaded. I'm really sorry for believing those rumors before. I didn't know any better. I hope you can forgive me. His message gave me strength. It strengthened me to know that my video really had a huge impact not only to regular people but also to people who worked in the industry. I really felt like justice has been served. I typed a reply and closed my phone. As I was about to close my laptop, I saw a familiar profile photo on Twitter. I checked her profile to confirm whether it was really her. It was Diane, another colleague of mine from KB Studios. I stalked her profile to see what she has been up to. However, a thread caught my attention. There were several tweets under it with pictures too. Reading the first 2 lines made my stomach twist and turn. I didn't want to continue, but I also didn't want to stop because I had to know what she had to say. Each sentence she wrote down made all the warm feelings I had earlier disappear. It felt like a bucket of cold water washed away my fuzzy feeling and replaced it with a lingering chilly feeling. I thought we had a good relationship when I was still working in KB Studios. Unfortunately, it was only I who thought that way. Why would she do that to me? Chapter 33, Shocking Discoveries. I felt the knife before I saw it. I looked into the eyes of the wielder. It was my friend from so long ago. The eyes that were once filled with so much purpose and love were now replaced with bitterness and hate. The only thing that showed any resemblance to the old friend was the shell the bitter soul inhabited. My old friend was gone. Okay, that's not what happened, but that's what it felt like. The shock, betrayal, and sadness that I felt in that moment didn't ebb, but instead it multiplied. I had a sick, worried feeling in the pit of my stomach that seemed to intensify as time passed by. I raised a hand over my beating heart as I read Diane's tweet over and over. This can't be real. At Dianeliing29869. I am the marketing head of KB Studios, and when Sandra used to work there before, I would often interact with her whenever we had a shoot for our brand ambassadors, and so you can consider me to be credible when I say this. In this tweet, she added a silly photo of us. The both of us were posing next to the mannequins wearing crazy outfit combinations and making wacky faces. This photo was taken on the last day of one of our photo shoots. A small smile crept on my face as I recalled the fun times we've spent together during my brief time in KB Studios. My face immediately fell when I remembered the tweets she made after that. I guess this is what makes it hurt the most. I genuinely thought that we were friends until I read this post. I clearly misinterpreted the situation. Our friendship was one-sided after all. At Dianeliing29869. Do not believe Sandra's claims against Mr. Butler because all of it is false. Sandra always had a big crush on Mr. Butler. However, he never responded to any of her advances. After he kept on rejecting her, she threw a fit, destroyed property, and even spread rumors about him. This is not true. I yelled to no one in particular through clenched teeth. I ran a hand through my hair as I groaned in frustration. I rubbed my temples trying to ease my throbbing head. It suddenly felt like the world around me was going to explode. I placed a hand over my mouth in shock as I continued to scroll through her other tweets about me. She continued to call me a narcissist, a liar, whore, and slut. She started to spread fake rumors about my past relationships, and even the male friends I've had when I worked in KB Studios. Every word stung, only fueling the fire that burned inside of me. Every violated phrase was like gasoline to it. My fists began to clench and my jaw rooted. She was one of the people that I have confided in when everything went down between Kevin and I. I thought I could trust her. Key word here is thought. I was clearly wrong. Burning rage hissed through my body like deathly poison, screeching a demanded release in the form of unwanted violence. It was like a volcano erupting, fury sweeping off me like ferocious waves. The wrath consumed me, engulfing my moralities and destroying the boundaries of loyalty. I couldn't believe she would say this about me, knowing how really Kevin is behind the scenes. I clicked the reply button and started typing my reply. I felt like a woman possessed as I did. The tweet ended up to be a length paragraph with a curse word thrown in here and there. I let out the breath I didn't as I slumped back on my chair and read the paragraph that I wrote. My eyes widened in surprise when I saw how poorly written it was and how desperate I sounded to defend myself. Every sentence was filled with panic and even anger. I shook my head as I immediately deleted everything I wrote. I need Ellie. I closed my laptop in anger and grabbed my phone to call her. I tapped my foot as I waited for her to answer my call. Hell, I cut her off immediately. Come over, we have a situation. She must have been surprised at my sudden outburst as I heard her gasp on the other line. What happened? I can definitely hear the panic in her voice. You know what, just tell me when I get there, I'll be there in 5. She added as she abruptly ended the call. Well, that was quick. I paced anxiously around my apartment. I felt like a lion in its cage that desperately wanted to escape. I tried to calm down by focusing on my breathing. Breathe in, breathe out. How could she say all those things against me? Her words really struck a nerve in me. It kept repeating in my head like a broken vinyl record. I felt so foolish to tell her things she didn't deserve to know. My thoughts were interrupted when I heard a loud banging on the door. Sandra, it's Ellie. Open up, she shouted as she knocked hard. I instantly rushed to open the door for her. Careful, it feels like you're trying to destroy my door. I joked as I stepped aside for her to enter. You don't seem to be in a hurry, do you? I teased as I took in her appearance. Her hair was still wet and she wore baggy clothes. It also looked like she wasn't wearing any makeup. She just went to the sofa, ignoring my lame attempts to make fun at her. I came here as fast as I could. It sounded like something urgent, but when I got here, your first words were poking fun at me. She narrowed her eyes at me as she crossed her arms in front of her chest. Imagine how tired I am. She still had this menacing look on her face. I held both my hands up to stop her anger. I'm sorry, I was just trying to ease the tension. I plopped down next to her and took her hand to massage it. I'm sorry for making it sound like it was an emergency, but in my defense, if you also read it, you would also think that it is. Read what? She raised her eyebrows in confusion. I grabbed my laptop and opened it. I searched for Diane's Twitter profile. I browsed through her whole profile to look for her tweet accusing me of spreading false information. As soon as I found her very demeaning tweet, I handed over the laptop to Ellie. She carefully set the laptop on her lap and began reading the entire tweet. What the hell is this nonsense? She muttered as she finished everything. Her eyebrows are all scrunched up. I know, right? I nodded in agreement with her. Diane is such a shrew. I already warned you about her, but you didn't even listen. Her tone was very sharp, which made me look down, knowing she was right. Maybe I overlooked some red flags in my friendship with Diane. I didn't think she was capable of slandering me like this. I muttered under my breath. We both went silent as we stared at the computer screen. I decided to carefully reach for the laptop on her lap to close it. Ellie broke the silence as she stood up and clapped her hands as if a bright idea just popped in. What did she think about this time? You know what I think? Maybe she was just doing this because she wants to look good in front of Kevin's eyes, so that he can finally pay attention to her. She sounded so sure of herself. My eyebrows furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? I asked her. As you know, Diane has already been in the company long before you entered. She voiced out as she sat back down. I vaguely remember her being jealous of you because opportunities were opening for you when you only started for a couple of months. She revealed. My eyes widened with this new information I received. Really? How did you know that? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could she get jealous of me? She was already at the top of her field, being the marketing head. What more could she want? I grew even more confused. Well, I overheard her gossiping with another employee. She trailed off as she held her chin, trying to recall what she heard. She said that it took her years to get to where she was. But you only got promoted because Kevin was fond of you. She explained. My jaw dropped as I understood what Ellie was trying to say. So she's just doing this to win Kevin's favor. She declared seriously. Well, they both have something in common, they're horrible. I retorted, to which we both roared in laughter. You know what I realized? Diane can go to hell. As I come to know Diane's terrible personality, It makes me think that she isn't worth replying to. I added with a shrug. Come to think of it, why would I worry about some insignificant person? Since she didn't even consider me as her friend, I too should also disregard her as my friend. You're right, Ellie stated with glee. I already overcame so much these past few days. Compared to all of those, she's just this annoying fly trying to gain relevance by forcing herself into someone's problems. I said, my voice was laced with annoyance as I recalled all of the events that happened recently. I grew much stronger because of these circumstances, and I owe it all to myself and to Ellie, who's always there to help. That's absolutely true. You shouldn't mind her. She's not even important in your life. She placed her hand on top of mine. I gave her a genuine smile. I'm really grateful to have her as a friend. Yeah, I know. I'll just focus on myself and those who are important to me. Which reminds me, I never got the chance to properly thank you for everything you have done for me. I muttered shyly. I always appreciate you being there for me in my ups and downs. I pulled her into an embrace. I closed my eyes, savoring this moment. It felt nice to just hug your best friend. It really hits differently. We stayed like that for a minute and eventually pulled away. I saw her eyes welling up. Don't cry or else you'll make me cry, I added, which made the both of us break into laughter. Despite the horrible start of my day, it ended wholesomely with Ellie cheering me up like she always does. I wonder what will happen tomorrow. Chapter 34. The public's opinion. Everybody is addicted to something. It can be drugs, alcohol, video games, or even fast food. Meanwhile, I was addicted to the public's opinion regarding my post. I would spend the whole day reading each and every post made about it on different social media platforms, whether it'd be good or bad. I watched how easily people's perspective on the situation would shift within the span of a few hours. I wouldn't eat and I barely slept. My eyes were locked on the screen as I constantly refreshed the page and searched for keywords. I would even check Kevin's social media sites for his statement on the matter, but he didn't say anything yet. I let out a long and tired sigh as the view outside of my window caught my eye. It was a busy day today as people rushed to go where they needed to be. Their vibrant clothes shine in the morning light as the people move like enchanting shoals of fish. There is chatter between sellers and buyers, old friends catching up, and even new friends being made. It's busy for sure, but the hustle and bustle brings a life to this city I wouldn't want to be without. I pursed my lips into a thin line, finally knowing what to do. I closed my laptop and placed it on the desk beside my bed. I need to get some fresh air. I have to accept that my life will never be the same, and that my only way of doing this is to stop being obsessed with looking through social media for validation when it's something I shouldn't even do. This is my story and I know that it is real. Spending my time looking at these posts about Kevin and I isn't going to make me feel better. Only I have the power to do this. After all, I am worthy of escaping this hurricane of thoughts, the positive and the negative analysis of the actions and words of others. I am worthy of love and a better life. I am. And with that, I was able to pick myself back up again. I cleaned up the apartment and finally took a shower. I dressed up well that day even though I just planned to go out and get dessert to take home. It's the thought that counts, I guess. I formed a small smile as I eyed myself in the mirror. I can do this. The moment I stepped out of my apartment complex, a sudden surge of energy ran through my veins. There was just something about it. I've stayed so long inside my apartment that I kind of missed the feeling of the warm sun against my skin, and the smell of coffee coming from the nearby cafes. As I walked to my favorite bakery, there is music to the feet on the streets, a chaotic rhythm born of universal soul. There is a tempo to it all, an upbeat mambo that's asking why the passers-by aren't dancing instead of taking their usual steps. So in my imagination the songs dial up their volume and I see a musical of sorts, the bright umbrellas twirling and strangers linking arms to dance in a circle before carrying on their way, never to meet again, yet each of them brightened for the experience. It's as if the streets are a set we can make any movie upon, we as the actors, for better and worse. I see the same cracks and peeling paint. I see the buildings that need more love, but it's just a set, right? We get to choose our own lines and actions. I get to choose my own lines and actions. And I chose to finally move on and become happy once again. The walk to the bakery seemed longer than before. I could feel the stares of men and women as I walked past them. It made me feel self-conscious, but I decided to ignore everyone as I held my chin up and opened the door of the bakery. As soon as people heard the chime attached to the door, all the customers' eyes darted to me. Here goes nothing. I gulped as I made my first step inside. I can do this. I kept repeating this statement as I walked around to see which bread I will buy. I can hear the hushed whispers of some people. I tried to block out everything as I focused on choosing which item to buy. I made my way to the counter to ask for brioche and cinnamon rolls. As the one in charge went to get my order, A woman suddenly approached me. Hey, excuse me. Aren't you the one who posted the false rape claims against Kevin Butler? She interjected as I waited for my order to arrive. It took me a second to register what she said. Her question left me stunned. What nonsense is she spouting? I turned to face her as I tried my best to compose myself after hearing her false accusation. I flashed her a fake smile before answering her question. Why, yes, I'm the one in the video, but those are not false rape claims, I retorted while gritting my teeth. I reminded myself that she doesn't personally know me, that's why she had the audacity to say those things to me. Well, I saw one post that says that you're only using Kevin for clout, she stated confidently, making sure others heard what she said. I furrowed my eyebrows at her. This is why people don't report. It's people like you who doubt victim stories and side with the abuser that makes us afraid to come out with our own experiences.
I snappte her.
By this time, the people inside the bakery fell into silence and it was only the two of us who were talking. I couldn't care less if they eavesdrop into our conversation. It's time I shut down people who keep talking as if they know better. Do you have? She tried to answer back, but I abruptly cut her off. No, I don't have any evidence to prove it to you, but please don't invalidate my experience by saying that what I experienced was untrue, because believe me when I say that until now it still haunts me, I declared loudly for everyone else to hear. Since we're already at this point where everyone's listening to the both of us, might as well let them hear clearly what I have to say. Yes, she's right, I heard someone at the back of the bakery voiced out. A man stepped in between us. I had a sister who went through the same thing. She experienced being ridiculed because people thought she was lying. Even though we encouraged her, there were still people like you who drove her to the brink of death. She couldn't handle the pressure of trying to prove herself. He shared his story with us. I looked at him with sad eyes. How difficult it must have been for him and his family. The woman earlier lowered her head as she realized her mistake. I'm so sorry. I should have known better, she murmured. I turned back at her to see her apologetic expression. It's okay. I just hope you'll learn from this. I was about to pat her on the shoulder, but she suddenly turned around and hurriedly walked out of the bakery, her face flushed with embarrassment. I scrunched my eyebrows in confusion as I watched her storm away until I couldn't see her anymore from where I stood before I turned to look at the guy. I thanked him for sharing his story and for also standing up for me. He shrugged his shoulders as if it was nothing. I was reminded by my sister when I heard your story. Seeing you in person and witnessing something like earlier made my blood boil. I couldn't stand here without doing anything, he said solemnly. His eyes held a glint of determination and sadness. I couldn't help but feel grateful for his help. Thank you so much for helping, we need more people like you. I flashed him an honest smile. He gestured to me that it's not a big deal and bid goodbye. I watched his retreating back. I couldn't believe that there are still people like him in this world who are willing to help strangers. I jolted in surprise as I heard someone clear their throat behind me. Excuse me, miss. Here's you brioche and cinnamon rolls, the guy at the counter said as he handed over my order. Thank you, I replied as I got the 2 pastries. That will be $10, he said as he printed out my receipt. I handed him the exact amount and walked away. I walked out with my head held high. It feels liberating to be able to stand up to myself. I feel so giddy going home. The support I received back at the bakery feels so refreshing. I still had a silly smile plastered on my face as I opened the door of my apartment. Things are going to get better. Chapter 35. Biting my tongue. I'm home, I announced to no one in particular as I swung open the door and turned on the lights of my apartment. I let out a long sigh as loneliness suddenly hopped onto my shoulders and sunk me to my knees. I used to prefer living alone as I wanted to enjoy my independence. Being alone gave me total freedom to do whatever I wanted when I wanted to do it, and how I wanted it to be done. However, I couldn't help but miss being greeted by the smell of fried chicken, and as I would follow the scent to the kitchen, I would see my mother smiling at me. A small smile crept to my lips as I remembered the cute little apron she wore over her office clothes. I had a close relationship with my parents, and whenever I was happy or sad, I would tell them. I loved it whenever they gave me advice, and I always took it to heart. Even though I am happy that someone stood up for me today, and I am proud of myself that I was able to speak my truth, I couldn't help but feel conflicted about my job opportunities, the public's perception of me, and my colleagues betraying me. I longed for my mother's warm embrace and comforting words in moments like this. I used to snuggle up next to her as she would gently stroke my hair until I calmed down while my father would make me his famous goulash. We'd then eat it together as we watched true crime documentaries on the couch. I desperately wanted to go back to that. I miss Mom and Dad. I muttered to myself sadly as I fell to the couch with a soft thud, and I gently placed the dessert on the space beside me. I felt a pang of regret, wishing that I purchased goulash instead. I leaned my head back as I breathed out a sigh of defeat. I suddenly felt the urge to go to my parents' house and stay there for a while until everything dies down, but I don't think I would have enough money for that. Besides, I am tired of running away from my problems and hiding behind someone else, expecting that they would solve my problems for me. I did the same thing with my parents, Ellie, and even Arthur. I know that I am pathetic and I am a coward, but I don't want to be like that anymore. Not this time. I then reached for my phone and stared at my mom's number. It wouldn't hurt to just call them. After all, I haven't spoken to them for a while. It was then it hit me. They must have seen the video I've posted. They probably read the news articles about Kevin and I and Diane's tweets. The fact that my parents did not call me after seeing that must be a sign that they're either angry or disappointed at me. My index finger hovered over the button as I bit my lower lip. They could have at least said something if they saw it, right? So that means they didn't see it. I tried to assure myself as my finger slowly moved to the button. Just call your damn parents, Sandra. The moment I pressed the call button, my heart rate quickened as I waited nervously for my mother to answer. Please pick up. Hello, Sandra? Her sweet and velvety voice made me jump from my seat. A wave of emotions washed over me as a wide grin formed my face. How are you, sweetheart?
I'm fine, Mom.
Just wanted to check up on you. I greeted her excitedly. God, I missed her so much. Well, we're fine here. I faintly heard shuffling sounds on the other line. I heard my mom whisper, it's your daughter. To someone. Is Dad there? How is he? I questioned eagerly. I'm so glad he's also at home right now. Yeah, he's beside me, sweetheart. Do you want to talk to him? My mom replied. Yeah, sure. I murmured as I felt a little bit nervous to be talking to my dad. It's not that we're not close or anything, but my dad is somewhat like a psychic. He can see right through me whenever I don't feel well or something is bothering me. It's hard to keep something from him. I sure hope he doesn't sense something wrong in our phone call. Hey honey, how are things there? My worries quickly washed away as I heard his deep voice. It's all good. I miss you guys. I sighed, thinking how nice it would be if we all spend time with each other right now. It made me crave for both of their comfort as I talked to them even more. Is there something you want to tell us? Oh crap. Did my sigh give away anything? Did he watch the video? I bit my lower lip, trying to prevent myself from saying anything stupid or making any unnecessary sounds. Oh, nothing. I just wanted to be a good daughter and check up on my parents every once in a while. You know? I said jokingly, desperately trying to change the topic. I chuckled nervously. I hope he doesn't see through it. Are you sure? I'll hand over the phone to your mom. Before I could even respond, I already heard the phone being passed around. Sweetheart, what's wrong? She spoke with concern. I could already imagine her eyebrows furrowing and her eyes staring intensely into me as she tried to decipher what I'm feeling.
I'm fine, Mom.
You don't need to worry about me. My heart felt heavy as those words escaped my lips. It's really hard to stay strong sometimes. I was reminiscing about the times when we would hang out, eat goulash and watch documentaries. I just missed those times, that's all. I said reassuringly. Well, technically I didn't lie to them. I just left out some information they didn't need to know about. I wouldn't want them to worry about me so much. Besides, I already took care of everything by myself. Well, you could always come back here once in a while. You shouldn't work too hard, you know? My heart sank to the pit of my stomach as I felt a pang of guilt in my chest. Oh, if only she knew. I know. Anyways, I have to go now. I muttered for us to end the call. All right, sweetie. Take care. Love you. We miss you. Hearing my mom say that instantly made me feel emotional. It's been a while since I heard those familiar lines. I fought back the tears that were trying to escape my eyes. I need to end the call first or else they'll be worried. Love you too, Mom. Bye. I croaked out as I immediately ended the call. A wave of emotions washed over me as I closed my phone. I gazed off into the distance as I tried to manage these mixed emotions that I am feeling. I felt sad and regretful that our call only lasted for a couple of minutes, but I knew that it's much better than nothing. A small smile formed my lips as my eyes fell to the ground. I'm also happy that I know that they're doing well, relieved that they didn't bring up the video, and at ease because hearing their voices made me feel comforted. I really miss my parents. I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. I'm so glad that they haven't seen the video yet. If they did, they would have expressed their worries as soon as they picked up the phone. Since our call went smoothly without them bringing it up, it seemed like they were still unaware about it. It made me feel relieved that they are still in the dark about it, but a nagging voice kept repeating up until when in my head, I'll make sure to tell them in person about this rather than through a phone call. My thoughts were immediately cut off when I heard my phone pinged. I quickly grabbed to check who the message came from. My eyes widened as I realized the identity of the sender. My heartbeat quickened as I opened his message. I never would have thought that he would message me again. From Arthur.
Sandra.
I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to let you know that I saw the video you posted a couple of days ago. I admire your courage to share to the world your dark experience. I'm so proud of you. I placed my hand on my mouth as I finished reading everything. Wow, this night keeps getting better and better. Who would have thought that Arthur would message me even after everything we went through? I felt a sudden flare of joy as I smiled to myself like a fool. I miss him so much. I wanted to type in a reply, but I don't know what to say. I tried to steady my beating chest, but I just couldn't do it. My heart throbbed with happiness as I almost felt like I was intoxicated with joy. I set my phone down on the table and paced around the room to think straight. Should I message him? I shook my head wistfully. Isn't it better for him if I don't reply at all? I let out a long sigh as I held my head in frustration. But I want to though. I closed my eyes as I let myself fall onto my couch. Should I really do it? Fuck it. I groaned as I sat up and picked up my phone to type my reply to him. Alright, here goes now. Chapter 36. False allegations. Looks like I am back to square one. A few days later, I am working once again as a waitress at the same diner. Luckily, Ralph pulled through for me and managed to convince my boss to take me back. Even though I am miserable, I am somewhat relieved that I don't have to worry about being able to pay my bills anymore. I let out a long and tired sigh as I leaned my back against the counter and looked around at the busy tables. As always, the restaurant was full of life. An old couple was eating side by side, one glass of iced tea each, studiously bent over their meals. A group of young women in their 20s collapsing with helpless giggles as a stern woman dining alone nearby looked on and frowned. Businessmen in their gray suits jokingly toasted with their cups of coffee, while tourists were struggling to decipher the menu. The noise level was high too. The room was filled with different people all talking at once in boisterous laughter. However, it didn't bother me. I was already used to it. Excuse me, miss. One of the customers tried to call my attention as she raised her hand and waved at me. I nodded, acknowledging her as I quickly brought out my small notepad and approached her. She was a middle-aged woman that seemed to be dining with her teenage daughter. A grin crept to my lips as I suddenly recalled the conversation that I had with my parents the other day. Yes, ma'am. I asked politely as I pulled out my ballpen from my pocket, ready to write her orders. She gave me a small smile before she started pointing out certain food from the menu. I quickly listed them all down and read it back to her to double-check. Is that all, miss? She looked through the menu one last time before she looked up at me. She was suddenly cut short by her daughter. Oh my God, Mom! She exclaimed as her hand flew to her mouth in shock. Her eyes grew wide as she continued to scan the message that was on her phone. Her mother and I looked at her in confusion. What's wrong, dear? Her mother asked worriedly as she tilted her head to the side in confusion. I stood there awkwardly, not knowing if I should leave yet or not. The mother hasn't given me the signal yet, and she didn't finish what she was saying a while ago. Kevin Butler finally released a statement. She responded excitedly as my heart skipped a beat. What did he say? I squeezed the ballpen tightly as my hand started to moist. I licked my lips nervously as I fought the urge to pull out my phone right now. He said. She cut herself short when she noticed me. Her jaw dropped to the floor as she eyed me from top to bottom. She pressed her lips together as she looked at her mother. Her eyes were laced with panic as she tried to communicate with her using her eyes. I swallowed the lump of my throat as I took a step back. Well, if that is all, then I should go now, I said sheepishly as I did a small and courteous bow. The mother then glanced at me, flashing a small but thankful smile before turning her attention back to her daughter. As I turned around, I heard the young girl talk again, making me stop mid-step. Mom, that was Sandra, the one who made the post about Kevin. My heart skipped a beat as panic settled in. I must read his statement now. I immediately went to the kitchen to place their orders. As soon as one of the cooks acknowledged their meals, I hurriedly went to the storage room to check his statement. I pulled out my phone and searched for his statement. I clicked a news article to reveal what he had to say. Breaking. Kevin Butler addresses the allegations. A couple of days ago, a video circulated online regarding Kevin Butler's alleged sexual harassment on one of the previous employees of KB Studios. Netizens expressed various sentiments on the said topic. Just a few minutes ago we got a statement from Kevin Butler himself as he denied these rumors. I would like to express my sincerest apologies to my fans who were deeply hurt by the content of the video. I am here to clarify everything. Yes, I was involved with Miss Sandra Bailey for a brief moment when she was still working at KB Studios. However, the things she said in the video were all untrue. I don't know her true intentions as to why she would do that in the first place. It may have been a way to get back at me. Also, the text messages she showed did not come from me. It's possible that those are photoshopped. Once again, I'm sorry for causing trouble to my supporters and to the public. What can you say about this? Tell us in the comments below. I can feel the rage inside of me boil as I finished reading the last sentence. The nerve of him to twist my words and make himself look like the good guy. I balled my hands into a tight fist and clenched my teeth as I tried to calm myself down. I had to remind myself that I'm still at work and I still need to finish my job. I angrily ran a hand through my hair as frustration started building up inside me. Of course, many people would believe him. I'm just a waitress after all. It was then my thoughts were interrupted by the door suddenly opening. My eyes widened in shock as the person who opened the door and I made eye contact. He tilted his head in confusion. "Hey Sandra. Didn't know you were here," Ralph said as he eyed me in the storage room, probably trying to figure out why I was here in the first place. "I was just checking something in my phone," I said sheepishly as I held my phone up to show him. The phone screen was facing me so he wouldn't see the article that I was reading. His eyebrows furrowed at me in concern. "Are you okay? Your face looks flushed," he asked with a hint of worry in his eyes. My hands immediately went up to my warm cheeks. "Yeah, I'm fine. It's just so hot in here." A lie easily escaped my lips. I guess lying is definitely one thing I'm good at now. I started fanning myself and wiping my forehead with the back of my hand to make it seem believable. He nodded slowly, probably not believing me, but he just let it slide. "I never got the proper chance to thank you for helping me get back here," I added with a small yet genuine smile, trying to divert the topic. Good thing he didn't bother to probe more. "Oh, no worries. It wasn't even that hard," he said nonchalantly with a shrug. "Anything for you," he said playfully, making me chuckle. "So how have you been?" I questioned curiously, which made his face lit up with excitement. "You're not gonna believe what happened last night." His eyes sparked with glee as he thought about something. What could it be? What happened? I raised my eyebrows in anticipation. "Well, I've got a date tomorrow," he said in a hushed yet excited tone. My heart leaped with joy as I held his hands and jumped up and down excitedly. "Who is the lucky girl?" I beamed with glee as I watched happiness glow inside him at the thought of it. The anger I felt earlier when I read Kevin's statement completely disappeared, and was replaced with excitedness because of Ralph's good news. "Well, I met her online and—" He cut himself short when the door suddenly flung open to reveal Kyle, our boss. "What are you doing back here?" He eyed the both of us as we just stood there completely stunned. It felt like we got caught doing something that we shouldn't have been doing. Ralph plucked up the courage to break the silence between us as he cleared his throat and spoke up. "We were just getting something back here." He grabbed the nearest item on the shelf and walked around as if he was searching for something. I pressed my lips together, struggling to stop the smile that was threatening to form. Why is he so good at this? "Sandra, get back out there. There are customers waiting for you," he ordered firmly before he got out and slammed the door, my hair slightly moving away from my face due to the force. I let out a long and tired sigh as I hunched my body in defeat and walked towards the door. Before opening the handle, I turned to look back at Ralph and we both chuckled softly as our eyes connected. Here we go again. Chapter 37. With a push of a button. I've always wondered why cleaning was so therapeutic for me. For that brief moment, my mind is captivated by the clean and smooth surface of the table. I've always seen cleaning as a form of ritual, or repetitive behavior that's repeated and predictable. This is my break from constantly worrying about what will come next. My mind is empty but fully alert, aware, and not distracted by any mental chatter. Instead of replaying memories and dwelling on negative thoughts in my mind, I am finally in the moment. I only get to experience this sense of inner peace when the diner is finally closed for customers. I am free from snobby and demanding customers, sloppy leftovers and mouth-watering food that I can't even taste. Kyle left early today because he had to attend his daughter's recital, and left Ralph as expected in charge. Ralph was busy cleaning the kitchen along with our other co-workers while I was tasked to mop the floors and wipe the tables in preparation for tomorrow's customers. I let out a long sigh as I squeezed the dirty rag, releasing the dark and murky water. I grimaced in disgust before I returned it back to where I got it. "Are you done?" Ralph asked from the other side of the room, making me turn to look at him. He was wiping his hands on the apron of his uniform. I shook my head. Not yet, I still have to mop the floors, I said tiredly as I flashed him a close-lipped smile. Want some help? He asked nonchalantly as he took off his hat that came with our uniform and his hairnet. I'm done anyway with the kitchen. I waved my hands in front of me, rejecting his offer. I can do this on my own, I said as I quickly grabbed the mop and hugged the handle close to my chest, showing that it's only for me. I would like it though if you kept me company, I added playfully. He let out a soft chuckle as he plopped down on one of the seats. Okay then. My grin widened as I continued to get to work. I was focused once again on mopping the floor. My mind was blank as I watched the floor shine wherever I went. I was at peace again. I needed this kind of predictability in my life. Life has been so troublesome lately ever since I started working at Williams Incorporated. I let out a soft groan. I don't need to think about that for now. My grip tightened on the mop's handle as I remembered the lies Kevin said in his statement. How dare he do this? My knuckles went white from clenching my fist too hard as I gritted my teeth in an attempt to remain silent. It was always like this, despite having proof of him sending me threatening messages. My attempts of being heard are still disregarded and my story is still considered to be impossible to verify, as it is with the vast majority of sexual assault allegations. It is nearly always a case of he said, she said, and it disgusts me, knowing that the he is always believed. Our society has always been biased towards believing that men can never lie, leaving women like me feeling the same thing, hopeless, lost, and defeated. I bit my lower lip as my face started to become warm and red with suppressed rage. It is not fair that men like him can just get away with doing such disgusting and heinous acts, while women are condemned for allowing ourselves to become a victim. This is why women don't bother to report, and this is why women continue to be afraid of men like him until the point that we have to be equipped with pepper sprays and small knives whenever we walk at night. It's unfair. And the sad thing is, I don't know how to make it fair. I've tried to stay strong and continued to hold my head up high even when some people didn't believe me, but how can I ever do that now when it's his word over mine, and obviously, his word would be considered the more valid one. Sandra, are you okay? Ralph's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. His hand was on my shoulder while his other hand was handing me a tissue. I scowled in confusion. Why is he giving me tissue? I gingerly touched my face, feeling that my cheeks were wet from my tears. I couldn't believe that I was crying. I quickly wiped my face with the back of my hand and gave him a small smile. I knew that I should stay strong, even when it feels like it's a losing battle. That's the only way that I would make it out of this war between us alive. Infine. It's nothing, I said assuringly. Are you sure? He asked worriedly as he pulled me gently, forcing me to take a seat. Rest for a bit. With a sigh, I succumbed to his wishes and sat down in front of him. Infine, I swear, I said casually as I flashed him a big yet forced smile. You're not telling me something. Ralph folded his arms in front of his chest as he leaned his back against the seat. I arched my eyebrow at him in confusion as he stared at me expectantly for an answer. Sandra, I know. My eyes widened at his words. I know how fast things circulate on the internet, but I still can't get myself to get accustomed to people close to me seeing the video. I let out a long sigh. I'm sorry for not telling you about it beforehand, I muttered apologetically as I stared at him. His eyes became sad as we looked at each other. It's just, I wanted to explain myself, but he cut me off. It's fine, you don't need to apologize. I understand how hard it must have been for you, he said reassuringly. I'm always here if you need anything. He reached for my hand and squeezed it. His gesture made me smile. Thank you, Ralph. Actually, I'm not sad about it anymore. I was just angry at Kevin's statement. I replied to clarify that I was fine with talking about my experience. Yeah, I also saw that, he uttered bitterly as his eyebrows furrowed in disgust. I'm actually scared to check what people have to say about it. I know they'll side with him. A rush of anxiousness filled my stomach as I thought about the hate comments I'll get. Ralph's eyebrows shot up in confusion as these words left my lips. I just tilted my head at his befuddled expression. It's actually not what you think, he explained. As a matter of fact, a lot of people sided with you, he added. Really? How is that possible? I looked at him questioningly. He gestured to me to check my phone. I hurriedly pulled out my phone and searched for the article with Kevin's statement. I scrolled down quickly to the comments section. My heartbeat quickened in anticipation. Ralph moved next to me to also take a peek at the comments. I gasped and my hand went up to my mouth as I read the first few comments. I went down further to read more. My eyes were welling up as I couldn't believe the amount of encouragement people wrote in the comments section. "See, I told you," Ralph muttered beside me. I looked at him with a silly smile plastered on my face. It felt great to be able to receive a huge amount of support from the public. I couldn't contain the happiness I was feeling inside me that I hugged him excitedly. I was just not expecting this kind of reaction from everyone. I voiced out as he embraced me back. "If you didn't tell me about this, I wouldn't have it in me to read this," I added as I pulled away. "Oh, it's nothing." He waved his hand dismissively, gesturing that it wasn't a big deal. "I'm really thankful for all the things you've done for me, Ralph. I appreciate them all." I beamed to him with undisguised admiration as I smiled at him, to which he also returned. "No worries, I'm glad I could help," he retorted with a shrug. "I owe you a meal to compensate for everything you've done," I said jokingly, making the both of us laugh. "That reminds me, I still need to tell him about what happened with Arthur." I suddenly remembered the phone call where I asked Ralph to convince Kyle to take me back. Crap, I almost forgot about that. "Speaking of owing you something, I still have to tell you about why I quit Williams Incorporated," I began hesitantly. His eyes widened as he realized what I was talking about. "Oh yeah, you didn't tell me what happened yet," he responded. With a sigh, I began telling him the whole story. I dared not to leave any single detail out. From the night I met Arthur as Sandy and the moment I met him as Sandra to the last time we spoke in person and the text he sent me, I recalled everything like it was just yesterday. After I was done, I felt my heart ache as I missed him so much. I wish I could just muster up the courage to call him and tell him that I miss him. "You should talk to him," Ralph urged persistently. His eyes held a glint of excitement as he leaned in anticipation. I bit my lower lip, hesitant of doing this. I felt nervous just thinking about calling him, let alone talking to him. "I don't think I can," I murmured as I shook my head wistfully. "Besides, what should I say to him?" I gazed at him, trying to look for the answers in his face. "Just be yourself, you'll figure it out." I let out a loud groan as these words left his lips. I think it's a bad idea to be myself. But then again, I reminded myself that from now on I will not hide who I am anymore. I let out a sigh of defeat as I took his advice. "Wish me luck," I muttered worriedly. Ralph just placed a hand on my shoulder from across the table as if to give me strength. I pulled out my phone and searched for his number. My heart rate quickened as my thumb hovered over Arthur's number. "Just do it, Sandra," I mumbled to myself in frustration. I inhaled sharply and pressed the call button. I instantly felt anxious as soon as I heard the ringing on the other line. My hands began to moist as I felt my heart pounding inside my chest. As soon as the call connected, all the butterflies in my stomach went wild and my heart skipped a beat as I heard his familiar voice. "Hello, Sandra." Chapter 38. Reignite the Spark. "I miss you." My brain stuttered for a moment as every part of me went on pause while my thoughts struggled to catch up. Did I really just say that? I glanced at Ralph to see that his mouth was frozen wide open in an expression of stunned surprise. My eyes widened in shock when realization finally settled in. My hand immediately flew to my mouth, making a loud slapping sound. I flinched as I felt a pang of pain on my face, but I kept my hand there in an attempt to prevent myself from saying other stupid things. Panic started to consume me when I noticed that Arthur hadn't said anything back. I could already imagine his face right now. It was probably one of awkwardness, not even hurrying to save my feelings, to fill the void with a non-committal statement of appreciation. The silence hung in the air like the suspended moment before a falling glass shatters on the ground. I expected him to say something, anything for that matter, or hang up, but he did none of those things. He just stayed silent. I couldn't even hear any movement at all. I moved my phone away from my face to check if he's still there. My eyebrows furrowed in confusion when he still is. Ralph arched an eyebrow at me. "What's happening?" he mouthed. I shrugged in response as I placed the phone next to my ear again. "Hello." Silence. The silence between us was so intense that I couldn't even cut a knife through it. It was almost like poison to me, for in that void of sound the shallowness of our conversation was laid bare. What used to be a silly and flirtatious banter and comedic moments was utterly vapid. "Arthur." "Hello, sorry, what did you say again?" Arthur asked. His voice was laced with confusion. "I couldn't hear you properly. The audio was really choppy." I pursed my lips into a thin line. Should I really say it again? The hand that was on my mouth slowly fell from my face and onto my lap. "I miss you," I said, more confidently this time. I looked at Ralph to see him flash me a thumbs up. I gave him a small smile. "And I just wanted to know how you are." "Sorry, it's still really choppy," he retorted, making me scowl at the phone. How could his signal be so terrible? "I don't think I'll be able to say it again." I let out a long sigh of exasperation. Maybe it's a sign. It's better that he didn't hear what I said. I hated how I gave in so easily, just after I said before that it would be better to just leave him alone.
I'm sorry, but dial.
I was about to hang up until I heard Arthur's voice, making me stop mid-action. I was just kidding. He let out a hearty laugh, making me frown in annoyance. Ralph tilted his head to the side in confusion. I'll tell you later. I'm out. He nodded in response before he pulled out his phone to leave me and Arthur to talk. I miss you too, Sandra. My heart leaped with joy as a smile crept to my lips. I couldn't believe my ears. I couldn't function properly as overwhelming happiness surged into my veins. Thank God. I didn't make a fool out of myself. Speaking of which, I wanted to get back at him for his little teasing earlier. I didn't speak for a couple of seconds, stifling the laugh that wanted to come out of me. I waited for him to speak up, but instead he just cleared his throat. I'm sorry, what was that again? I tried to make it seem like the line was unstable. He roared with laughter at my lame attempt of getting back at him. It took him a while to compose himself. When he did, he spoke with a hint of playfulness in his voice. You want to get even? He said teasingly. God, I missed him so much. Yes. I deadpanned, making it seem like I was mad at him. He let out a soft chuckle. Well, how about a date at our usual coffee shop? I'll let you get your revenge from there. My eyes widened at his sudden invitation. Is that a date? The butterflies in my stomach were going wild at the thought of it being a date. I trailed off. Of course I wanted to go, I just wanted to poke fun at him for his little stunt earlier. Oh come on, Sandra. Can you even resist a date with a handsome guy like me? He uttered arrogantly, to which I laughed loudly. Oh, he's good. It felt like he could see right through my acts. All right. Since you said it's a date. I replied smugly. I heard some shuffling of papers in the background. I furrowed my eyebrows in confusion as to what he might be doing. Maybe he's still working. How about maybe an hour from now? He said abruptly as the rustling of papers stopped. 9 is a good time since I'm almost done cleaning the diner. I let out a sigh of relief, happy to know that I still have time to retouch my makeup and mentally prepare myself. Sounds good. I answered a bit too excitedly, which made Arthur chuckle lightly. My face grew red realizing my actions as I hit my forehead with the palm of my hand. Maybe I sounded too eager to meet him. I should have sounded more neutral. My thoughts were immediately cut off when he spoke. Sandra, I need to go now. I need to finish this quickly so I'll arrive on time for our date. He muttered as he sounded very preoccupied. I pursed my lips into a thin line as I slumped on my chair in defeat. Too bad we couldn't talk on the phone longer. Oh okay, see you then. Bye. I said cheerfully before he ended the call. I couldn't help but smile to myself like a fool as I still felt high on happiness despite the call ending. I tapped Ralph's shoulder to signify that I was already through with my phone call. He glanced up from his phone. It looks like it went well. He voiced out cheekily as he closed his phone. My hands immediately flew up to my face. Is my face red? How come? I asked him as I cupped my face. Your aura completely changed from earlier. He pointed out, making my face heat up. Now I can definitely feel my face reddening from embarrassment. Well, you're right. It went well. I told him, recalling our conversation prior to this. I proceeded to tell him what we talked about. So that's everything. I finished the story, feeling hopeful for our date. Well, what are you waiting for? I'll finish this up. You go home and prepare for your date. He said as he pulled me up from my seat. Are you sure? I don't want to burden you. I asked him, unsure if this is a good idea. He already did so much for me. Yeah, of course. He said coolly with a shrug. If you're uncomfortable, then maybe you can cover up for me next time I have a date. He winked at me, which made us both laugh. Okay, deal. I nodded in agreement. I glanced at our wall clock. It's only 7:30 p.m., so I still have time to change into something more suitable for a date. I hurriedly went out and bid Ralph goodbye. As I arrived home, I bolted quickly to my bedroom to look for a nice outfit. I decided to wear a navy blue blouse and pants. I only retouched my makeup so I can save more time. After being satisfied with myself, I hastily hurried out. The ride to the cafe got me feeling anxious. My palms became sweaty as I thought about meeting him. I tried to clear my thoughts and calm myself. I can do this. As I arrived at the cafe, I breathed in a large gush of air. I opened the door and saw his familiar figure seated near the counter. Our eyes met and he flashed me his handsome smile. I felt my legs wobble as I made my way to him. I timidly greeted him as I sat down on the chair opposite him. How are you? His smile never left his face from the moment we saw each other. I felt my heartbeat quicken its pace. If he's going to keep this up, I might faint.
I'm fine.
How about you? I tried to sound casual, hiding my nervousness. I hadn't realized that from here on our conversation would drift to something deeper. He started by first talking about how he felt the last day we saw each other. He admitted that he was hurt at first, but eventually he understood why I had to do that. He mentioned that he buried himself in work in order to cope with his sadness. Hearing him tell me all of this made my heart ache. I could only look down at my hands as I felt guilty for what I did.
I'm sorry.
I muttered. He reached out his hand to lift my face to look at him. He gave me a grateful smile. You know, I waited for the time you'll call me, or even text me. When you released the video, I was so shocked. I thought to myself that it would have been great if I was at your side at that time to show my support, but I know that you wanted to do this on your own, so I just sent you that text message. He voiced out. Thank you for understanding. I'm sorry it took me a while to reach out. I needed time for myself to fix the issues I had. I reached out for his hand and gripped it tightly. I missed you so much. He croaked out. His voice came out like a soft whisper. He inched his head towards me and leaned in for a kiss. In that moment when our lips made contact, our chemistry became an ever-bright flame. People often talk about mixed feelings like it's an exception, but for me it has become the norm. I'm scared to try and scared not to. What I actually do depends on the balance between the two. There are days I feel so drained from trying to be more assertive that I fail in crucial moments to put my needs forward. I'm feeling the same thing now. I'm scared to try again with him, and I'm scared not to. I knew that I shouldn't be with him, but my desire for him manages to push back those thoughts and feelings at the back of my mind. I kissed him passionately, letting him know how much I missed him. My hands moved its way up to his nape, pulling him closer to me. His kisses became more wanting. I feel lightheaded as I was so overwhelmed with the feel of his lips. Arthur eventually pulled back, leaving me wanting more. I stared at him expectantly as I leaned closer in anticipation. Let's get out of here, he said as he stood up and reached for my hand. I followed him closely from behind as we held hands. Seems like this isn't over.